Hi everybody, it's Kay Kaltoff, and we are doing a Stamping to Share video this morning on Facebook. Welcome to Stamping to Share. It's great to have you here. Hi Deb, you're the first one, so that's exciting. Thank you so much. If you are joining me live on Facebook, or even if you're joining me on the premiere tomorrow on YouTube, be sure to say hi. Maybe tell me where you're from, what your fall weather is like. We're kind of at the peak of our season here for fall in Minnesota. So it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work because there's a lot of things to do on the farm. They've been in the fields all week and working pretty much around the clock. So just a heads up, next week I will not be here for a Facebook Live or a YouTube premiere. I will be with my daughter who's flying in from San Diego, and I just don't want to take the time to do a lot of Stampin' Up! Next week because my priority is to be with her. So we're going to do some farm projects next week, and it will be all wonderful. Good morning, Joyce. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Okay, let's get jumping into this bundle here. It is called Earthen Textures. It was one of my most favorite bundles when I first opened up that catalog when it was brand new. And this is what it looks like. We have a stamp set with some sentiments and some really awesome vases and some kind of foliage type pieces that really work well for these gorgeous fall cards that we're going to make. Actually, they're not really so much fall cards, but I would say that a lot of the colors are kind of fallish. So you can kind of make them with the intention of sending them as a fall card. Hi, Mary Ellen. Thank you for sharing. She is from Montana. Good to have you here. Here is the beautiful Earthen Textures dies that go with it. And I want you to notice this can add a lot of texture on your cards. Sometimes we get these dies and we just don't have any idea what to do with them. Well, you are not alone because I kind of suffer from that too. I tend to use the ones that are pretty obvious and then not so much the ones that aren't so obvious. So I think that's something a lot of crafters struggle with. And we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. So the first card that we're going to make is this one. Let me get it set up here for you to see a little better. I'll bring it up to the camera and you can see where we are using some of those textures on this card right here like that. And you will also notice that I'm using one of my very favorite embellishments from the company. It's called Natural, what is it called? Naturals Adhesive Back Sequins, I think, or Neutrals Adhesive Back Sequins. Hi, Diane. Hello from Southwest Minnesota. Great to be here. Great to have you here. All right, and then we're going to open this up, and it just says thank you. But I love the sentiment. You are proof there is good in the world. Very nice. Goes great with these kind of frond-like leaves. And then we are also going to make this one, which has a little embossing on. And just to save a little time in this video, I went ahead and did that in advance, but I'll share the tools and supplies that I used. And then it says, you are proof there is good in the world. You can tell that I like that sentiment, can't you? I really do. All right, so let's get started with this one. Oh, shoot. On the supply list that I posted, I think I forgot to mention that we are also using deckled rectangles, and quite a few of them, 1, 2, 3 of them on this card. And I forgot to put it on my supply list, but you can always search it in my online store if you're looking for it. We are going to start with a pebbled path card base, 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. And let me get my bone folder. We're going to do this right today. I don't like it when my cards kind of pop up as I'm working with them. I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure you're just like me and use that bone folder every time you make a card. It's essential. And once you have a bone folder, you pretty much have a bone folder. But I have to have several because I lose them all the time. Then the next thing we are going to do is I am going to talk about which deckled rectangle we're using. So I have a piece of scrap Earthen Textures Designer Series paper. Shoot, I didn't grab the paper in advance of this video to show you all the different types of paper in that pack. So you'll just have to kind of squint your eyes and look at the catalog to see those papers. But this is a piece of scrap. It's basically 4 1/4 by, no, it's 4 by 5 1/4. Because at one time when I was making these cards, I was thinking of filling in the whole background like this, but then I felt like you just couldn't see enough of the pebbled path. So I did die cut this with the very largest frame here, and it allows you to see a little more of the pebbled path all the way around. So that is why I chose that. So we can go ahead, since there's no ribbon wraps, we're just going to go ahead. Oh yeah, here, you can see the other side of this paper. There are some Moody Mauve. Oh my gosh, look how my nails match. Wow. I just did them yesterday. Moody Mauve looks good with my nail color and with my shirt color. Unfortunately, we're not using that side. We're using this side, kind of the gray granite pebbled path side. So we're just going to set that in there, press it down. And the next thing we have, well, and I forgot to mark it. You can tell I was in a bit of a hurry today getting prepped for this, but it is 4 by 5 1/4. It's just your standard card panel that goes onto the inside of your card. And on the inside panel, I already put down a piece of designer series paper to match the front that carries that theme over into the inside panel, and it's 3/4 by 4 inches. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and stamp it with the thank you, and we are using Misty Moonlight. So let me open this up. I'll grab my thank you and we'll get this stamped. I probably could have just put it into the card because I'm pretty good at just stamping a quick sentiment. So I'm going to actually close this up because I don't want to risk getting ink on my supplies here. So this one, we're going to use our Stampin' Seal so that we don't make any glue marks on the back. Sometimes with this lighter paper that's really good for coloring, it's not so good for glue lines. So we're going to set this in here. Just center it in, press it down. Oh my gosh, I just got a big ink mark on that. Oh well, whoever gets it will know that this is the card I made in the video. You know, a special little memento. All right, so let's go ahead and do the inside panel, or the outside panel now, with all of our different pieces. So this is actually going to be a quick card simply because I'm trying to figure out how to get this ink off my hand. So I'm going to use my almost brand new chamois and just rub my fingers over it where I had the ink on my fingers. There we go. Have you guys ever done that? That's kind of a little trick for you if you didn't know it. So I took a piece of basic white and I'm just figuring out where I used it. I used it the third from the largest. So 1, 2, 3. Count 3 in from the largest. Hello, Martine. She is from Europe, from Belgium. It's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So this also can be put directly onto our paper. So we're going to do that. And this time I'm going to use multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm not worried about glue lines because we have another layer that will cover this up. So if any glue lines show through, no one will see them. So we're going to set this in and we'll just wiggle it into place so that it's nice and even all the way around. Okay, the next one, let me show you what we used here. We used the next level down, so it is the 4th. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, it was the 4th down from the largest. And you might also notice there are some indentations on the top and the bottom. That is the textures, the earthen textures. And it's that funny die that I was telling you, sometimes I don't know what to do with those kind of dies. So it's kind of fun to add just a little texture like that in your cards. Sorry, I'm having trouble here getting it into the camera. So you just put it once you have this cut out, so cut this out first, then you can run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Looks like I did it this way. Just half on, and then you can do the same thing down here. And you've created a little bit of texture, a little bit of interest for your card. And it does make a difference. You'd be kind of surprised how little details like that can add so much to your card making. So we're going to put this on with a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue once again. And just center that into that basic white piece, making sure that all of your edges or borders are nice and even. The next thing we did is I used the Earthen Elegance Designer Series paper, and I cut out 2 of these leaves, 2 of these fronds. And it has a really, really long stem. We don't need that long of a stem. So when I cut it out, I actually only cut out like this much. So you don't need as big of a piece of paper as you might think you would, because you're not using that long, long stem. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to go ahead and glue these on. You know, just one here and one there. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm just going to add a little ring of glue here. And I'm going to put it so that this peak kind of pokes into this corner down here. That's how I know I'm going to have both sides symmetrical. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And we'll get a very symmetrical look for this card. Actually, you know what? I want this poking up into the white area. So I'm going to see if I can remove this one. Sometimes with glue it's hard, but I don't think I had it sitting down long enough. You want that to poke into the white area because it provides better contrast than the basic gray area. So it's going to look like this as you're setting it up and going to your next step. Okay, the next step is I cut these little fronds. I don't know what else to call them. We don't have leaves like this in Minnesota. However, we do appreciate leaves like this in Minnesota. So very pretty on the back, and this is the front. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of glue down this edge. Whoops, right down the center. Now you could use adhesive sheets if you wanted this to get really sturdy onto your card, but I don't need to do that. So we're just going to set this in very much right down the center of that first leaf. And again, we're just going to add a little glue right down the center, and we're going to put that in just like so, with the blue side up. Of course, you can do whatever you want. Whichever side you want to go up, you can go up. I also cut out 2 of this shape in basic white. You can see what that looks like. And again, all of these, this one, and this one are all in this die set. So you only need that one die set to cut out all these leaves. So again, I'm going to add a little bit of glue to this, and there's enough room here that you get what you need. And this one is just going to go like this. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. And set that in right here. All right, so this is what our card is looking like so far. And we're down to pretty much the last steps here. So now we're going to bring in our Nested Essentials dies. And I went ahead and I cut out a piece of basic white with the second largest one. So if you're counting from the inside, it would be the second one. And I pre-cut that and I pre-stamped it just to save a little bit of time, but this is the really good sentiment that I love. So we're going to flip that over and we'll add dimensionals now. to get that to pop up just a little bit. Kind of scrambling here looking for my dimensionals, but I just found them. And I think 5 is an appropriate number for this size. So we don't want our middle really caving in. And we can just set this smack dab square in the middle. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking around at my sides and making sure that it's, you know, pretty much right in the middle of the card. That covers up that whole center section, and then you have your beautiful leaves coming out from each of these corners here, from each of these diagonal corners. And now what we can do is we can take our, oh, and do I have enough? I think I do. Oh yes, I do, because I'm using white. I'm going to take, you can tell that I love this embellishment pack here of the neutrals sequence, and my customers do too. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. This has probably been the most popular embellishment from the annual catalog for me, because everybody loves everything about having a flat card. So I am kind of frantically, half frantically looking. Oh, here it is for my Take Your Pick tool, and thank goodness it was here. So I'm going to take one of the large sequins, and we're going to put this one right down here, just kind of anchoring the bottom, and then I'll take 2 of these smaller ones and just drop those in up here. I think right here. Give it all a good press so it holds together nicely. And we've just completed a card that looks like this. How absolutely lovely. With my signature smears. Thank you, Deb, for the kind compliments and for sharing. I really appreciate it. We're now going to move on and do this card right here. So let's go ahead and figure out our supplies for this one. We're going to start out with a card base that is 8.5 by 5, or 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. This is Pretty Peacock. So I love that they brought this color back. It's one that was insanely popular when we had it as an in color, and it continues to be insanely popular as a regular color. We don't have a ribbon wrap on any of the layers going on the front, so we can go ahead and place those. We have some copper clay, 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and add this again with some multi-purpose liquid glue. I love multi-purpose liquid glue. It's so nice and fast. Candace is funny. She's saying, wow, I shouldn't be late. Oh, it's okay. Candace, you can even catch the replay with me tomorrow if you'd like, because I do that over on YouTube, which is a great place to catch the replay of my Facebook Live if you don't quite make it live on the first day. So this is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And this also is a little bit of kind of an ombre style paper that's in that paper pack called Earthen Elegance. Rosemary says, I should try to put something over my schmear. I don't know, Rosemary. We're going to take a second to look at the schmear. There's a schmear spot here and a schmear spot all the way across the top. I may end up unassembling this inside panel and putting a new panel on. It would not take long. Yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist. Okay, that's the understatement of the day. I am very much a perfectionist. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. I can't control it. I have toned it down through the years. I don't try to be perfect with everything, or I'd never get anything done, but it's difficult for me. It's difficult. I'll just say that right out. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we have 3 vases that need to be cut and prepped for this card. Actually, you know what? Let's do our inside panel. We'll see if I can avoid doing a schmear. So we're going to use basic white 4 by 5 1/4. Flipped it over. I already put some coordinating paper on the bottom, 3/4 inch by 4 inches. And we're going to use Pretty Peacock ink this time to coordinate with our card base. We'll see if I can keep my fingers away from the ink. It probably happened when I was shutting up the ink pad, which is rare for me. I'm usually pretty good at that. You are proof there is good in the world. Love, love, love that sentiment. I am going to shut up my ink pad. See, I'm not getting anywhere near the ink this time. Being very good about it. And now I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and set this into my card. Whoops, I forgot to take the cap off. Let me try that again. Here we go. You can tell I have such a habit of putting things back that I put my caps on immediately. But I'm gonna not do that with my Stampin' Seal because I'm using it all the time. Oh, phew, no smears. Perfect. Candy says she'd be happy to receive a card with smears. Well, I'll keep that in mind, Candy. You might have opened up Pandora's box. All right. So what's the next thing we're going to do? We're going to talk about those vases. Let me see if I can get them out here. So one of the vases has a little handle over the top. And if you want to, you can even add a little bit of that texture on top of the vase, but you don't have to. So I'm going to make this card without the texture, and I have pre-cut that little handle. So just tiny little scraps of paper. And then I'm going to set this aside. Let's see, where's that vase? So that vase, you need a scrap of paper that looks like this. And then I pre-cut that vase. And it's this shape. It's actually the exact same shape as this one. So this is just these two vases are the same size, but this one looks taller because we're adding a handle to it. So to add the handle, I'm just going to take a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue and put a skinny little line here right at the top. You don't need much because that multi-purpose liquid glue really grabs onto that. And then I'm just setting it in here. You get a couple seconds to make sure you have it right where you want it. And so we have this one ready to go. So let's go ahead and prep the next one, which I did stamp and die cut. So I have a piece of scrap, and it's this little bit of an ombre one. You can tell that it's this same piece of paper here. So it's just a little scrap of that. And I stamped this basket. I stamped the basket first. And I used, I think I used Pretty Peacock ink. I'm not totally sure now when I'm looking at it, but I think it was Pretty Peacock. So I stamped that. I think I stamped it off once and then stamped it because it looks a little light. But then we die cut that with that vase, and we have a little vase that sort of looks like it was hand weaved. So that one's going to go over here. Then we also have another scrap of this wonderful designer series paper. And I did pre-die cut this one as well. I don't like to take time die cutting on my videos just because I do know that most of the people watching my videos are not new to stamping. So you know how to use a die cutting machine. And Stampin' Up has a wonderful one, and there's lots of Stampin' Up videos about it. But it's the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I pre-die cut that one. Oops. And it's a nice tall one. Really looks cool. So that one will go in the middle. All right. Then we need one of these big fronds. Again, I took a scrap of this paper and I die cut a frond. And we're going to go ahead and attach it with basically what I want to do is I want to just get it right in the middle. I'm going to attach the frond first, and then we'll put the vase in next. So I'm going to add a little multi-purpose liquid glue around the back. We're going to put this, we're going to snug it right up to the top here. Kind of center it in as best you can. And then we're going to add our vase. That's the next step. And then we have those two things right down the middle. So get the vase so it's just a little bit up from the bottom. Straighten it out so it isn't like a leaning vase. You want it to be straight up and down. And this is where we're at. Then we're going to add our other two vases. And we're going to put those on with dimensionals. Now this vase actually gets a ribbon wrap. So it is our natural wavy trim. This is a really pretty. This is just really pretty. So I'm going to just take a little snippet of that and we'll wrap it around and use Scotch tape to adhere it. So we're gonna set this on, wrap it around. We'll adhere this side with a little Scotch tape, and we're gonna do the exact same thing on this side. And that just gives it a really earthy look. I love it. So once again, add a little Scotch tape to the other side. And there we go. We have our little vase with a little bit of twine wrapped around it. So this one will also be put on with dimensionals. But there is one thing I need to add to that, and that is I need another scrap of copper. I need a scrap of copper clay, and I have die cut a little frond. You saw this one in the other card. And that is going to go right here. So I can basically put that down because I know that I'm putting the vase right over the top of it. So I'm going to add a little glue to the back. And I'm just going to set this in like this. And then I can add my vases now with dimensionals. So let me grab those dimensionals that are always getting away from me. And we'll just put a couple on each vase. So Mary Ellen is saying she finally got her ribbon and she loves it. And Debbie is saying a schmear to me means homemade. Oh, and homemade means love. You are so right. Thank you for that comment, Debbie. That is great. Linda loves the cards. She says they're very cute. And I think, Linda, I think you have this stamp set, if I recall. Part of your winter stamping lineup, if I recall our conversation. And Bonnie's here. Thank you for joining us, Bonnie. So awesome. Oh, I missed a whole bunch of comments. Whoops. I got to see what I missed here. Debbie loves the ombre paper. So we're going to set this in. And I just, you can just sort of set it in where it looks good to you. I think I want it overlapping. Whoops. I want it to overlap this space just a hair. No, I don't. I want it a little more even. There we go. There's one vase down, and here is the other vase. Beautiful. Now let me show you what I did. I have this whole toolbox. I don't know how you guys store your embossing supplies, but I'm going to show you how I store mine because we need to emboss our thank you. So I just have a shoebox that looks like this, and this is how I keep everything handy for my embossing. So I've got my heat tool in here. I've got my Versamark. I store it right in here. These are the embossing additions kit, not the powder. But you get this little chalk pad to rub over your paper to prevent, you know, to prevent this. What do you call this? The little blowaway specks. I didn't rub that over my paper, but it worked out okay because my things turned out fine. And then you've got something to hold your paper if it's really, really small. And then you also have a little brush if you want to brush every little bit of embossing powder back into your containers, which obviously I do not. So that is called the, I think it's called the Embossing Additions Toolkit, which I love. And then I have the Basics embossing powder, and this one is white. So that is, and then I have the other one too. So I'm not sure. I think that was a 4-pack, but I'm not totally sure. Anyway, I keep all my Stampin' Up! Powders in here. What is this? I don't even know. Oh, that's the Embossing Additions Toolkit. I probably kept that so I would remember the name of it. So I'm kind of bad about remembering names. All right, so I stamped it in Versamark. I used the powder to, you know, get it to stick to the Versamark. I shook it off and then I heat embossed it. And magically, I did that in advance on a scrap of Pretty Peacock. And I have a couple of thank yous. And this particular set of dies, I can get it out. Where did it go? I was thinking it had that little, what you call it, that little sentiment deal, but it doesn't. So I'll have to look up because I made these cards a couple of months ago for my top 10. And I can't remember what set this is in. So I'll have to look that up and I'll add that to the supply list by tomorrow. But anyway, here is the little thank you that we're going to use. I mean, it's almost small enough. You could hand cut it. I mean, it's just straight little lines. All right, so then we're going to take this and put it on with dimensionals. So let me do that. Yeah, so this was my top 10 card. I think it was back, was it July that I last made these cards? It's amazing. I can even remember what I'm doing. And then the other card that we made earlier, that one was my swap card for that month for my downline. So I always do a top 10 card and a swap card for my downline for our meeting nights. All right, so now this all looks good, but it's going to look spectacular once I add some copper sequins here. So I'm going to take a big copper sequin and put it right here in the middle of our frond. Wow, that just makes it look so cool. And then we're going to take a couple of little ones. We're going to take a little one and put it right here. That kind of fills in that space there. And then we'll take another little one. I'm going to use my take your pick tool. And we're going to just tuck that right up here. So it's just barely under there. So it's just peeking out. And that's all we need to do. That is our card. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Diane. She says she loves the card. Joanne says beautiful cards. Gina's saying beautiful card. Linda is wondering, is the Autumn DSP in yet? I haven't checked today. Yesterday it wasn't. So you would have to go to my online store and type it in and see if it pops up for you. And I'm not sure when it's supposed to be back in stock. I think it's supposed to be back in stock this week. So let me share with you the cards. I think I'll do it like this. We're going to go like this and like this. So as I mentioned, this was my swap card for my downline. All right, so here are the the 4 cards. I think they're so beautiful, and I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was just a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to make these cards with you. And I hope that you don't mind that I took a few shortcuts so that we wouldn't take an hour and a half to do these cards, because these cards, with all of the die cutting and the heat embossing, they were a little time consuming, but it's fun to share with you how this all came together. Thank you so much. And yes, tomorrow I do the YouTube premiere at 10 o'clock over on YouTube at Stamping to Share. So if you didn't catch all of it today, you could join me there for what you missed. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.